Welcome to another episode of Think Your Way to an Epic Life. And my next guest, Nick Bolden, is living an epic life. He has this huge goal of being able to give away $1 million a year off of the proceeds of his property rentals. $1 million a year to give away is his goal. He's going to talk us through it all, show us how he's gotten to where he's at. He's got several different companies, madly in love with his wife and his family, and he's just a really great all-American guy. So hope you enjoy. So Nick, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, we're looking forward to digging out all of the good gems that are in there. We're going to dig them out and help folks because, I mean, you're pretty amazing. How many companies do you own now?
So right now, 4 or 5, and we're trying to actually work on 2 subsidiary companies probably in the next 12 to 24 months.
Wow. Why? What keeps you driving like that?
Honestly, it stems from the knowledge of that clients need specific things from the real estate industry. So I guess my background really taught me how to, my goal is to become a one-stop shop. How do I become the one-stop shop for whether you're a home buyer, whether you're selling it, whether you're an investor? And my background is primarily in the investment industry. And so for me, we started the sales team because honestly, my back was up against a wall, and that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. We can dig into it, but my back was up against a wall. So I knew how to do real estate. So I went into sales, and then made a team off of it, realized, okay, I have to duplicate myself. So me and my business partner went in there and then realized a lot of my clients, when they buy a home, they want renovations done. And I'm basically doing the work for my subs because they don't know how to communicate. Contractors can't do communication or clean bookkeeping or any of that stuff. So then we went into the construction business, and then property management. That's where my bread and butter has been the past 8 years. And I couldn't recommend any of my investors to property management companies because I was like, nah, they're not out there. And then our rental portfolio, family wealth is massively important to me.
Whew, that's a lot. I mean, wow. And you just seem so calm and relaxed. And, how do you do that?
Honestly, my faith. I'd say that between my faith and my wife, again, when I first started down this journey, asked me 2 years ago that I'd be in this situation, I would have said, you've lost your marbles. I've lost some marbles along the way. But I would definitely tell you you've lost them because I wasn't seeing myself moving from what I was doing. And here I am 2 years later doing not a different path, but just I wasn't thinking I'd be doing and owning businesses. I thought I'd always be a W-2 paid worker.
Okay, so how long ago were you a W-2 paid worker?
January 17th of 2023 is when I got, let go technically.
Oh, wow. What? Okay. So you have exploded. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So, really the way that I went into it is I'm an all or nothing person. That's just always been my personality. So even the last company I was at, within a span of 2 years, I went from answering calls at the front desk to basically running the entire property management division for 5 different markets. And so for me, it's always been like in my DNA to go. My parents taught me that ethic at a pretty young age. And so when I got into the position of really my back being up against a wall, to kind of delve into it a little bit, we really got into a non-compete issue. Thankfully, FTC is doing something about that, but we got into a non-compete issue, and I couldn't do property management. I couldn't go work for another company and be paid, quote unquote, a high dollar position. And so in lieu of that, I had my license. They can't stop me from selling a house. And I'd never really done retail. And when I came to KW, met the team, met some of the leadership, and I was like, all right, God, it's all or nothing. Like, you've told me to trust you. And I literally told the Lord last year, I remember March, my wife and I sat down on the couch, middle of the month. And I said, if I could sell 12 houses this year, we'll be fine. Ended up selling 31.
Woo, baby. Go on now.
So definitely a change, but it was good.
So your first year, you did 31 transactions, and what was your price point there?
So they ranged. My highest price point was probably 600 here in Memphis, and then my lowest price point was 55K investment deal. So I did a handful of investment properties for not even previous clients. It was just random people. People at KW knew I came from the investment realm, and they're like, "Hey, we don't really know how to do this here. Take it." I was like, "Great, it's my bread and butter. I know it."
Right on. Okay. So you started off, and I am very, very prejudiced. I will admit this openly online for the whole world to see. You started off with the very best real estate company that you possibly could have. Did you fall into that?
So I interviewed like 4 brokerages. I probably could have done more due diligence, quite honestly. But it's just one of those things when you know. And after I sat down and met with the leadership, so my long-term goal beyond not what I'm doing now, which is kind of crazy because I feel like what I'm doing now is nuts, but my long-term goal is to own like 300 rentals. And so when I said that, most people that I interviewed out, they were like, I don't know, they're like baffled by that. They're like, why? Why would you do that? And then the response from Kim here at KW, her response was like, I love that. How can we help you get there? It was never a limit to say, you can't do that. You need to focus on this. And so she helped me lean into that. And it really kind of helped us shape us into what we do today.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. KW is the entrepreneurial. I've had several people on this podcast that have 300 or more doors that did it through not through KW because but that is what KW does is not just go sell homes. And why is it important to you to talk to realtors about investing in real estate?
And so it honestly was important to me because part of my testimony is January 17th, I stopped working. I was very candid. I started in December of 2022 talking to my previous employer saying, hey, I'm going to go work for this company. They've offered me something. It wasn't about pay. It wasn't about anything else other than I just felt a prompt in my spirit that it was time to leave. And so in the process of doing all of that, when we transitioned, it didn't turn out the way I thought. There was no transition. They basically had lawsuits threatened against me for non-competes that I signed. I was 21 years old, had no idea what I was really signing. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But I feel like the Lord had bigger plans. And instead of just moping about it, I interviewed at a few brokerages. I took some time to really get my head on straight. My wife and I went to visit some family in Costa Rica, came back. And I told my wife, I was like, I got to figure this out. So interviewed at brokerages. And then once we went to KW, I went from January 17th to April 28th of 2022 without a paycheck, or 2023, excuse me, without a paycheck. And the only reason we were able to do that, and my wife was working part-time at St. Jude. She wasn't full-time. She wasn't the breadwinner. No offense, but she wasn't. And the reality is we had rental properties that legitimately helped us float our life. It helped provide it. I really think that if it wasn't for that, we probably would have had to file bankruptcy or reach out to somebody for some help.
Okay, so and my numbers might be old, but it was a couple of years ago. It was the average renter's net worth is $6,000. The average homeowner's net worth is $455,000. And how many realtors are out there that know inventory and know it, and they don't even own their own home, let alone an investment property?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, the hardest part about this industry as an agent, and just to be completely candid, is really not only the fact that they don't own their own home, but they don't own their own investment. And not only do they not own their own investment, but they're consulting people to buy investments. And it's like going to a car dealership and asking a 12-year-old who's never driven a car in their life, hey, I want you to show me how this vehicle drives. What are the benefits of the vehicle? And how can I make sure this is the right car for my family of 5? That 12-year-olds cannot speak to that. And I see it every day in the industry. Nothing to bash agents who do that, because at the end of the day, you have to make a living. I get that. But man, like if we could, as agents, build wealth so that when I'm 65 years old or 70 or 80 or 90, I'm not having to sell real estate because I have to provide. I'm selling real estate because I love it, and I have investment properties that can fund my life if I need it to.
Right. I think that fear seems to be the biggest reason that holds people back. So speak to that a little bit. Is it scary? Is it scary to own? How many doors do you own now? Is that?
Yeah, so right now between myself, my wife, and then my business partner and I just started buying this year, we own 9 right now, and then we have 4 flips that we're working on. And so like it's terrifying. We're floating debt at the end of the day, but we know the numbers, we know the games, we make it work. Um, so for me, I was terrified up until mid-March. That's really how the name Evolve came to be. It actually was like a moment with just me and the Lord. My kids had this like bounce house out in the backyard. They were playing. We were putting them down for the night and had to go outside and put it up. And I remember the Lord spoke to me so clearly about when you have your back up against the wall, he forces you to grow. And so the word grow just kept getting stuck in my head. And grow is a terrible name for a company, at least in my opinion, it was. So then I just started praying more about it. And then that's how the word evolve came to be. And that's really the epicenter of our company is not only do we want to evolve, we want our employees to evolve. We want our investors to evolve. We want our tenants to evolve. We want our contractors to evolve. Everybody needs to grow together because otherwise, what's the point? Why am I doing this?
Exactly. I love it. Okay, so it seems to me that your faith is the biggest driving force in your success.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how long were you raised as a believer, a Christian, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So I was actually born in the mission field. Spanish was my first language. Ironically, I can't speak it anymore as fluent. That's what happens when you have to go to school and learn to speak English to the teachers so you can communicate with them at 5 years old. But I was born in the mission field. My parents raised me in a good Christian home. And then my wife is a believer. She was raised in a similar scenario in terms of just biblical upbringing. And we try to do the same thing with our family and our kids.
Okay, so as someone from the outside looking in, being judgmental, why do you need so much, right? What is just one? And I know your heart already. I know there's countless ones, but just one thing that you've been able to do to truly help someone else that you could not have done if you didn't have wealth.
So I'll go back to a specific story. My wife and I bought I want to say it's our 3rd property. Actually bought it from our old turnkey provider that we worked for, or that I worked for. And she had been a tenant in that existing property for about 3 years. Great tenant, paid on time. Amazing tenant, actually. And I asked her, I said, hey, on paper, you're the best tenant that anybody could ask for. I don't necessarily want to kick you out and renovate it and raise the rents and try to find somebody else. Can I put you in a hotel for 30 days near your family, whatever we got to do? Can I figure out the affordability of that and figure out what we need to do to make that happen? And she was like, I don't need a hotel. I'll just go stay with my mom. So she stayed with her mom for 30 days and I went in there and renovated the house myself. This was me being on a tight budget. So I went in there, painted the walls, replaced the kitchen cabinets, painted the cabinets, new flooring throughout, did everything by myself. And when she moved in, she came in tears. And she literally was like, this is somewhere I'm proud to call home. And the fact that I've been here the past 3 years, I've had family, I've had friends here. And she's like, I've never been embarrassed of my home, but I'm definitely not embarrassed of it now. And I told my wife, I was like, that's why I want to do what I do. I don't want to just buy rentals and put the bottom line. And I'll be honest, like when you look at the renovations that our company does for our investors, we're not going to be the cheapest, but we're probably going to deliver the nicest quality. And it's something that we want tenants to move in and say, I'm proud of where I live. I don't care if it's rental. It's a nice property.
Very cool. I love your heart. I mean, it's so important. And I can remember back in the day when I was a renter and like I got new carpet once in my apartment. I had been there for like 2 years and they said, you're getting new carpet. Oh my gosh. It was like the coolest thing. I got new carpet and it matters. I mean, it really does. It matters a lot to people. Okay. So what's a BRRRR?
BRRRR. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So that's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And that's really what our companies are built off of is that BRRRR method. So we help the investor buy it on the acquisitions with our real estate team. We help them renovate the property with our construction team. And then we actually help them manage the property so they can refinance it on the refinance piece. And then we'll repeat it, we do it again. And that's one of the things that we're trying to work on is actually the lending side at a future point is to be able to help other investors who don't necessarily have cash in hand becoming a private money lender to say, hey, we'll help you walk through this process. And we have everything. It's a one-stop shop. It's a white glove BRRRR service so that you can get into the game.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful because once somebody gets a taste, just a taste,
It's addicting.
woo, yeah, it's, oh my gosh. Because I get it. I do. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, it's hard enough just to own your own home, let alone having rentals. And oh my gosh, and you have 4,200 properties?
So the old company I was at, we managed 4,200 doors right now. So we opened our management firm back in March of this year. March 1st was our official start date. Started with 6 doors, and all 6 of them were mine. So, and now we are, as of today, at 62.
Oh man, you're rocking. You know, it doesn't take much, and I bet this is across the entire country. It's a job that I, as a realtor, would never, ever, ever want, is to be a property manager, and it is one that in my entire 22, 23 years, I have had a very hard time finding property managers that you will want to refer.
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
And
why? Why is that?
so property management is a hard gig because the work is exhausting, it's long, it's thankless, and it's one of the worst paying positions you can get in real estate. As far as if you want to get exposure in the investment game, it's a great opportunity. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's thankless and you're not going to get paid well. And honestly, that's one of the things I learned at my previous job is, okay, so we're modeling ours quite a bit differently in terms of how we run our management. So we're wanting to say, all right, how do we build a good profit margin to where we can afford this thankless job to feel thankful? We can afford to give longer tenure and a longer lifespan on the shelf for that average property manager. Because right now, average property manager life shelf is roughly 2 to 5 years. And don't get me wrong, that's a good lifespan for any job. But man, I want people on the bus for 5+ years.
Right. You don't really get good at something until unless it's literally you're taking a bad apple off of the conveyor belt and that's your job. But like almost every job takes years to really be great at. So I'm going to go back a little bit to your white glove thing. So someone who's in New York City could call you and say, I got some money I need to invest, or I don't have any money and I want to go with your lending. But I've got some money I want to invest. Here's $1 million. I want to give it to you. What would you do with their $1 million and how would that look?
So it just depends. You have multiple strategies as how you could buy it. If you want the safe route, you could always do the conventional finance method and put 20-25% down on everything, and you're going to get probably closer to 8, maybe 12% returns. If you want to do cash, and you want to do bird deals, and you want to do 4 a year, 5 a year, 6 a year, our average return for most of our investors are legitimately 25. I've seen some up to 76% cash on cash return. So that means if you're getting 76% return, you're making your money back in less than a year.
This is a first, man. I've been doing this podcast for over 2 years, and first time I have nothing to say. I'm just blown away by that. Those numbers you gave are 24 to 76% ROI.
Yeah. So like on my personal portfolio, our average return is 52%.
Oh my gosh. Okay, listen up, guys. This is a place to put your money, and real estate is always a good place to put your money. It's
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So how do you handle having a real estate company, a construction company, a property management company? How do you manage it all and have a happy family?
So honestly, again, faith comes back to it. But the reality is when we first started this, the beginning of the year, I'll be honest, our projections beginning of the year was a certain amount in sales. We're going to meet that number. Was a certain amount in construction for total renovations that we've done. We'll do probably 4 times that number. A total amount in properties managed. We passed that 2 months ago. And then a certain amount of flips. We're at that number now. We're probably going to get another 2. And we were trying to buy properties for our rental portfolio on a company level next year, and we're about to close on our 3rd one. So I don't as far as how I manage it, I don't know. I just really honestly started to get to a point where I realized I can't do this by myself. I have to have the right people in the boat. And so we just hired a property manager a couple of weeks ago. She's a freaking rock star. She's new to the industry, but she's willing to learn. She's hungry to learn. We have amazing subs who help with the renovations. We just brought on a partner for the renovation side, so he helps leverage my time so I can grow that property management side. And my business partner handles primarily the sales, so we can continue to grow the sales side of it, which feeds the rest of the companies.
Right. I mean, the thing that I see that you're doing incredibly well, according to Warren Buffett, is you're sticking with what you know. You know, you're not making a widget. Oh, I think I could make a bunch of money if I just went over to this thing. It's like, it's all real estate. All of your companies are based around it, and it's all tied in so that you can handle the white glove service and everything be handled, which seriously sounds too good to be true. It just sounds too good to be true, but oh my gosh, like I can just send you money and you're going to handle it and I'm going to get that kind of a return. Or like, oh my gosh, how exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that not every deal may pan out that way. And we don't make promises to sit here and say you can get a 25% return. I mean, we've had some where they almost only got a 15 to 18% return. But the reality is go to a turnkey company. No, again, I used to work for one, but go to a turnkey company, you're lucky to get 8. You're better putting your money in the CD account and getting 6%. And so really my focus was, how do we give people not only that ability to invest in real estate, but also the ability to mitigate some of that risk and take on that risk for them, which the weight of that at first was like, oh my gosh. But then I had to start treating every deal like it was mine. And then it just changed the ball game, because then I know this industry, I know how to do it. So because this is my deal, I'm going to run it at the pace I need to run it.
There you go. Okay. So like I have flipped 2 in my real estate career, and I do own investment properties and all that kind of stuff. I can't imagine doing everything that you're doing. I can't even imagine it. And you seem so calm, cool, and collected by it. However, you've got the leverage piece really figured out well, and your faith seems to carry you through everything seamlessly.
It does. I mean, again, that's really the glue to it. My wife she's phenomenal. She literally is a gym, and she does a fantastic job of reminding me to stay grounded. Because at the end of the day, I was listening to a podcast actually this morning on my bike ride, and one of the things that was said is like, financial wealth is great, but if you don't have spiritual wealth, and if you don't have physical wealth, and you don't have wealth in other areas where it can fuel your financial wealth, then none of that matters. And that's true. Like at the end of the day, if I don't have health to enjoy being here, and I don't have health to enjoy my family, I don't have even wealth of time. That's, again, you can either have time or money, but if I can trade money for time, I'm going to take that all day.
Right. And you obviously mean that because you were out riding a bike. So talk to me about that. Talk to me about, what do you do to take care of you to run at the level that you run?
So about a year ago, I lost about 60, 70 pounds. And I'm still on the journey, still trying to lose some weight. I was very, very overweight. And honestly, it wasn't even just for appearance purposes. It was like, I just want to be around when I'm 75 years old and I have grandkids. So my wife and I, she's always been a pretty clean eater. So I have a very, very good sweet tooth, and I'm trying to knock those jokers out. But about 3 weeks ago, I really started to say, you know what, I got to get active. And so like I've helped correct some of the clean eating, and I said, I need to get active. And so I told my wife, I was like, you know what, running is very bad for my knees. So how can I do something that's going to be good for cardiovascular system, but also it can let my brain just kind of unload. And so I get up now at 4:30, I get on a bike, I ride around my neighborhood, down to a park, ride for about 3 or 4 miles, and I'll come back home. And it's such a good way to listen to podcasts. It's a good way to honestly educate myself on things going on from the real estate industry to even just an economic perspective, as well as like spend time praying for people, praying for friends, praying for my family. It's honestly, I wished I would have done this years ago.
Guys, listen, hear him, please hear him. I mean, get up at 4:30. Who would do that? Let me tell you, when you do, and you actually do the physical stuff, there's a great book called Spark that explains that when you do aerobic exercise, it literally grows your hippocampus, grows your frontal lobe. You're not just working out in your body, guys. You're working out your brain. And when your brain is doing better, you can own a whole bunch of companies and be all chill, like my buddy Nick here. You can just It's great. So what question, Nick, have I not asked you that I should have?
And I mean, that in and of itself is a good question. um, I don't necessarily know. I think at the end of the day, the reality is I grew up my dad always said something to me as a kid, and it's something that I literally told our property manager yesterday. I was telling our partner we just brought on renovations, and I said, life is what you put into it. Everything in life is what you put into it. So what you put into it is what you get out of it. If you're going to put 60%, you're going to get 60% out, maybe even less. Because you have to remember what you put into it has a filter, and the reality is you're going to get less than what you put into it. And so I don't know. I honestly I know that the Lord has allowed us to get to where we're at because we're putting in the work now, and the goal is for us to be able to reciprocate and receive some of that at a later date. So not only my family, but the people of Memphis, my goal is really to give back to this city. Memphis has a really, really bad stigma for crime. I lived in Dallas for 7 years. I hate to tell people crime is everywhere. It happens everywhere. And the reality is yeah, crime can be bad in Memphis, but I'm actually here to want to change it and do something about it and make the city a better place.
Man, you are in the right place. Sarah Layson, who is the one who hooked us up, wants to feed the world, and she's starting right there. And it's so cool when you have other people that are on the same path as you and want to make a difference. And that's, you guys, I swear, I'm right there with you, what you said about if I don't have my health. There are people that I know personally that are making millions of dollars every year, literally millions of dollars every year, yet they're so unhealthy. And what can you do once you can't do? Yeah. I mean, Steve Jobs went to a grave really, really early, and he couldn't take any of that with him. So this podcast is called Think Your Way to an Epic Life, Nick. And so what advice, tips, tricks, anything do you have for our listeners to help them think their way to their own epic life?
I think when you think your way to it, you got to write down. You got to be clear. That was one of the things I will say. So I'm an avid Bigger Pockets listener. Brandon Turner was one of the people I listened to a lot when obviously it was him and Josh Dworkin and some of those other, and David Green. And one of the things they constantly said was crystal clear criteria. And meaning, like, for me, my goal, the reason I want 376 doors to be exact, is that cash flow equates to roughly $1 million passively on an annual basis. And it's not because I want to make that, it's because I want to give that. And so if I want to be able to give that price point, then I need to know what property amount I need to be able to get that $1 million. And so that's how I got to my 376. That's why we started opening these companies, and that's why we started doing what we're doing, so I can fund that life and that dream. And so I think if you think it, that's really, really great. But I don't know the study, so don't butcher this. Maybe you can put it in any kind of show notes that you have. But there are statistics that have a higher probability of succeeding in doing something if you take from your head and you put it down on paper. You actually write it down.
Right. No, 100%. Yeah. And in ink, not type it. It gets the subconscious mind going, right? And cursive too, for all of you people who don't.
They don't teach that anymore.
I know. My grandson the other day, he's opening his card and he's trying to read it, and he's like, I don't read cursive.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, yeah, that's some really good advice, guys. Whatever you're thinking, write it down. And then another tip on writing your goals out is that you'll generally achieve 75% of the goals that you set. So set your goals a little higher than you feel comfortable with, and just see what happens. And when you have something, I just want to talk to you about your drive, Nick, behind giving $1 million away a year. What does that feel like when you think about that?
Honestly, it's pretty emotional. Just because, like, I grew up, my parents provided, they did great for me. But I grew up with people that didn't have what we had. And I, by no means were we super well off or wealthy or any of that stuff. But I had a very good life as a kid. My parents provided a good life as a kid. And for me, I'm a big advocate for stepping on the shoulders of giants, meaning, like, so if my parents provide a good life, I want to provide that same life, if not better, for my kids. And how can I do that for my community and for other people? And so for me, that's one of the biggest takebacks is how can we do that? And like, for example, $1 million doesn't necessarily mean the actual monetary value. Sometimes it just means the amount. So like, for example, if we have a house, a goal of mine at some point is when we can financially afford it is to give a home away every year to somebody who needs it. Because there's so many people that need a home. They can have a home. They're qualified for a home, but they'll never have it because of the stigmatism that they let themselves live in.
You know what? I love this. This is a whole new way of setting goals. Seriously, because there's so many people who won't do anything for themselves, but they'll do everything for everyone else. So set your goals for someone else too, guys. Set your goals for, I want to be able to give someone a home. I want to be able to give someone a car. I want to be able to give this man shoes, right? A meal, whatever it is. So yeah, let that be your driver. Very cool. Nick, I am so grateful that you dropped so much wisdom on us and gave us your time today. We really appreciate you. All your information is down below. And guys, if you've got questions for Nick or you want to talk to either one of us, the best way to do that is to leave comments on the YouTube site. And you might be listening to this on Spotify or something else, but YouTube is where we can talk to you. So just leave your comments in there and Nick or I will respond to them. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.